Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Nothing Like a Good Book. And my very special guest this time, author, is Mr. Paul Nixon. No relation, as I understand it, but he is the author of Francesca, My Adventurous Life, and Finding My Soulmate. It's a beautiful memoir of him and his absolute darling, and the story unfolds, and it's quite nice to listen to. So, Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Great to meet you.
No, it's nice to have you on the show. You grew up a very quiet and shy kid, you say, easily intimidated, and you hated being that way, right?
Yeah, I used to feel very self-conscious about that. 12, 13, 14 years of age. And even back then, I always thought somewhere deep in my mind that in order to find my true worth, I would have to leave Ireland and begin a journey of self-discovery. Uh-huh. Well, that came about 29 years, or at the age of 29.
Right.
I flipped a coin in a bar in front of all my friends. All right, I'm heading to either Australia or the US of A, based on the flip of that coin. And in doing so, I couldn't back out. I was committed.
Well, not in front of all your friends, no.
No, I could never go back. So I ended up in New York. And
okay, so you chose the US. Poor Aussie was not right for Aussie at the time.
Well, I did get to see Australia. That was years later, but I made the right choice. I did make the right choice.
And what part, where was this bar, if I may ask, in Ireland?
It was in a village called Tala. My father had constructed a sports complex, and it was a bar that he had built in there.
Okay. So just for geographic reference sake, because I was in Ireland last year, I'm trying to get an idea. What were you near? What was the biggest city you were near?
We're about 7 miles from Dublin City.
Oh, okay. That gives us a good
That'd be about southeast of Dublin.
All right. So after leaving school, I mean, did it change then how you felt?
Yes, I was still quiet, but I was always looking for new challenges. And I got into restoring British motorcycles.
All right.
Vintage British motorcycles. And that in turn allowed me to join the local motorcycle club.
That's the Clondalkin.
The Clondalkin Motorcycle Club.
And
they're still, they're still going today.
Yeah? What sort of bikes? I mean, what were they?
I had a 1954 Royal Enfield, and I had a BSA 650 and a Triumph 650. And,
yeah, you really were into it big time.
I was into it.
What was Whelan's stunt group? What was that about?
Believe it or not, I was very bored one evening. There was nothing on TV, and back then we had, it was 1979. I think we had like 3 or 4 television channels, and there was nothing to watch on. And I remember reading the newspaper from end to end. And in the back of the newspaper, there was a small advertisement looking for men and women to train for stunt work. And I said, I'm doing that.
Oh.
So I called the next day. They brought me in for an interview, and we would train on the beach very close to where I lived. It was actually about 7 miles from where I lived.
Right.
And within 2 or 3 months of that, Pat Whelan, our trainer, approached us. He says, believe it or not, he says, we got a great gig ahead. We've just been invited to participate in Irish televisions. This was one of their most lavish TV productions to date, Strumpet City. And Strumpet City was based on Dublin in 1913 during the industrial lockout.
Okay.
And it dealt with the lives of different peoples of different status, all the way down to a homeless guy, and the impact of the city on them at that time. There were a lot of police riots, and we did all the right scenes.
You did all the right things.
Well, we did all the right things.
There's one more I got to ask you. This Irish African Friendship Organization.
Well, it was on the same day that I started with the stunt crew. I was working as an auto mechanic then. And another gentleman who started with me ended up becoming my sparring partner. And he was also an auto mechanic that worked in a Volkswagen dealership across the street from where I worked. I worked in a Ford dealership. And after several months of doing this, he turned to me one day. He says, "Would you be interested in going on a convoy to Africa?" And I said, "Yeah." Didn't give it a second thought. He said, "Well, meet me on Saturday night at Marhampton Road. There's a party, and I'll introduce you to a gentleman by the name of Pat Smith." Well, I met Pat, and he was all excited because I had the mechanical aptitude for breakdowns or whatever along the way. There were two convoys they were arranging. One was to Egypt, and the other would take us down into North Africa, through Morocco into Algeria, and then cross the Sahara into Nigeria, and the Upper Volta. And I thought this would be the journey of a lifetime.
Well, my word, by the sounds of it anyway.
Well, I chose that trip. And 1979 in Ireland, there was a lot of political turbulence going on in Northern Ireland between the IRA and well, when we got to North Africa, the customs, they suspected us as mercenaries because there was a little bit of tension, I believe, at that time between Morocco and Algeria. Because we were being led under military guide, we were refused entry. And so we tried working through the embassies, and that failed. So after a week, we decided we had to abandon the project and head back.
What a shame. What a disappointment, huh?
It was my first out of Ireland, and it was one of the most exciting experiences I ever had. There was a lot of drama on the border.
Right.
We were held under armed guard for 12 hours before one of their senior officers came.
Right.
And I give a very vivid description of the border post and just the people and the animals that passed back and forth through that border.
Right.
But
unusual, very different, very different. I mean, that's living life, isn't it? What an experience. Your book, Francesca, My Adventurous Life and Finding My Soulmate. It's an engaging narrative that really intertwines with breathtaking adventures with a compelling love story. It's a little bit of both worlds, isn't it? Let me bring this up. Look at that. What a lovely looking woman. And you look so happy there, my friend.
Yeah.
Got rid of the mustache.
I lost my hair about a year ago as a result of a tick bite. All my hair fell out, my mustache, facial hair, all disappeared.
Wow.
And a Chinese instructor, a Tai Chi instructor in Ireland, in Dublin. My brother has been studying under him for about 30 years. He said, when you go back to North Carolina, he says, go out and buy a cheap bottle of brandy and rub it in your head every night. And lo and behold, my hair came back.
There you go. Look out, bro, again. I tell you, bottle of brandy, huh?
Yeah, it didn't all go,
purely for medicinal purposes.
It didn't all go in my head either.
What inspired the book other than this doll here?
This lady that you're looking at now, she had encouraged me probably about 10 years ago to start writing down these adventure stories. I worked in Switzerland and I traveled to Alaska and Australia. Actually, I did a transatlantic race in a tall ship. I don't know if you're familiar with the E89 line. It was a BBC series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a great series. And I remember I was home when the tall ships came into Sydney.
Yeah, well,
that was a beautiful sight in Sydney Harbour. And then I was working at that. Where was I at that time? I was up in Coffs Harbour Television. And they came up, two of them came up to Coffs Harbour. And we did a show, actually, myself and my co-host, for TV. We did a show from the actual wharf itself and the boat and so on. And
very good.
The crew and everybody. And those ships were amazing, weren't they? What they went through weather-wise. And
I had the pleasure of taking part on that ship in a transatlantic race from Boston to Liverpool, England.
Wow.
It was the 1992 Christopher Columbus celebrations. And the climax of these celebrations was this race of 84 tall ships. And we experienced very, very severe weather. within 3 days of sailing out, almost potential hurricane. It was everything I imagined a tall ship, or these old movies that we'd watch of tall ships sailing and piracy and so forth. It was that and then some. We had a very knowledgeable skipper who was able to actually use the storm to propel us into the lead. So in the 4 weeks that we crossed the Atlantic, it was magical. It really was magical. And after 4 weeks, we landed off the coast of Ireland, and there wasn't a breath of wind. And 20 miles off the coast, you could smell the manure from the farms all that distance away. And we basically just sat there drifting. And in 4 hours, we covered 3 miles. And so it wasn't until the following, actually, it was almost 2 days later, at 4 o'clock in the morning, they woke me up from my bunk, told me that I was needed up at the helm. I went up, and skipper came over. He says, well, you're the only Irishman on board. He says, so we're giving you the privilege of taking her across the finish line. And we won the race.
How about that?
And there was a parade, although I wasn't involved in the parade yesterday. Almost all of the crew members paraded before the King and Queen the Queen of England and the royal family, and the King and Queen of Spain. I was with an Australian girl that I became very fond of on the trip across.
Oh, that's understandable.
And
our Sheilas are pretty good chicks.
yeah, you can say that again. Well, she invited me down that Christmas, and
so the proverbial question is: did you go down under?
I did, but not all the way.
The beautiful verdant landscapes of Ireland. Oh, it's a beautiful country. I was there last year. I had the privilege. The rugged terrains of Alaska. What took you to Alaska anyway?
Adventure.
Okay.
I signed up with a group of 12 people that were taking a motor launch that would sail up through the Panhandle from Skagway all the way down to Ketchikan.
You find all these people, don't you? Someone introduces you to somebody, or you meet them in a bar, and Francesca herself becomes a central figure in this book, right?
Yeah.
I mean, serving as both muse and partner in the extraordinary life that you led, detailed within your book. So the book is Francesca. Was she Spanish?
She's Greek-Italian.
Greek-Italian. Ah, beautiful. What's that she's got in her hand there?
Hot in looks and hot in temper.
Okay. Yeah. Hot-blooded, right? Hot-blooded. Extraordinary life within your book. The narrative captures not only all your adventures, but it also deeply personal, it shares deeply personal reflections that resonate universally. There is a website, folks, you can go to, https://paulnixonart.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
paulnixonart.com. Can the book be bought directly from that?
It's currently being linked to it now, so I'm thinking in the next day or two. They're working on that. Right now, the website is it's filled with all the artwork I've been creating over the last 25 years, and that is Francesca's responsible for that.
So this romance, when you met, we're going to go back and how you met her in a minute, but she brought out of you another talent that you had. You didn't know that.
The way I think of it is God gave me the talent, but Francesca brought it out of me.
Oh, well, because, you know what they say, behind every good man, there's a top woman, right?
She was the best.
She, in fact, the book, folks, not only the link will be probably to Amazon, but paulnixonart.com, but Barnes & Noble, it'll be there. It'll be on Amazon and Ingram Spark as well. So you grew up in the village of Clondalkin?
That's right.
Okay. It's a suburb of Dublin in Ireland. What was that like?
At the time, it was a quaint village. Today, it's an urban sprawl. But we lived in a neighborhood on a cul-de-sac with probably around 40 or so houses. All young families, so there were a lot of kids that played out on the street.
Soccer? With the paper football?
There was seasonal games that we just created. And then over the wall at the top of the road from where we lived, it took us into fields, and we had created tunnels in the hedges, and it was just a great place for
lovely, great stuff. Hide and seek stuff, huh?
and a lot of old history there. My grandmother, or my grandparents rather, they lived next door to a round tower that was built in the 8th century.
Right.
I shouldn't say this, but a friend of mine had,
the guys.
well, a friend of mine, his father was the gatekeeper to this tower, and he would sneak the key to the door of the tower, and we'd go up to the top and smoke pot.
I was going to say, well, you brought it up. I wasn't going to ask, but I mean, what a place. You'd never get the coppers coming up there, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
The bloody, what are they in Ireland? They're not bobbies. That's England. What's Ireland? The constabulary.
Garda. Yeah, Garda.
Okay. Here's this address, folks, just in case. I got a feeling someone said, Mark, would you put up the address banner? There we go. paulnixonart.com. HTTPS, paulnixonart.com. Paul Christopher Nixon. That's a good Catholic name, isn't it?
That's after my father.
What did your father do when he was home?
He was a cabinet maker initially, and as a young child, I go through the kitchen door into his shop. He had a small shop. He did cabinet making. And then later years, he and my Uncle Joe got into partnership with as contractors, building contractors. And so when I was around 15, 16 years of age, he would come into the room. I'm there. All I want to do is sleep till 12 and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And he kind of kicked the bed and he says, come on, son, you're going to learn something today. And one project that he brought me on was it was in March. It was a large muddy field. And there were stakes marked out in the field, and there were 2 caravans parked in the field.
Right.
And he said, this is where we're going to build a sports complex.
Ah.
And he says, you're in on the ground floor. So I worked with him for 3 years there. And I didn't realize how much I was learning till after I became an artist. And that wasn't until the age of 40. Or 45 rather. But he brought me to some very unique places that he was involved in. There was another place in Dublin City in a very old neighborhood. There was a series of old Georgian homes, 3-story homes, and a butcher or a meat market. This lady had bought the premises next door. And she contracted my father and my uncle to take down the store and rebuild it, extending it into her premises. And when we broke open the door to get into this old premises, it was a shop from the early 40s with gas masks on the counter behind the shelf. It had old tobacco advertisements, old tobacco mirrors. It was like stepping back in time to the time of the World War II. So whatever happened to that family, it happened very, very quickly. All the furnishings and all were in the house there. So my father told me, he says, take whatever you have. It's all got to go. So upstairs, I found all kinds of silk paint or silk embroidered tapestries, fox hunt paintings. I collected everything and brought them down to a room downstairs, not knowing what I was going to do. I was 15 at the time, 15 years of age. Right. Well, there's a dandelion flea market on the other side of town, and they got wind of it.
Right.
Well, I tell you, for a 15-year-old, I made more money that day when they came over. Not that I made as much as they would sell that stuff for, but it was a unique experience. And while there, my father asked me, he said, go outside. He said, there's an old shed in the back. He said, take a sledgehammer and knock it down. And when I saw the shed, I realized this was going to be a daunting task. So I swung the sledgehammer like my father showed me. And I hit the doorpost, and suddenly some coins started to fall down from over the door.
There you go.
And I reached over.
Like the Irish, right?
There you go. I reached over the door, and I felt a large box. And as I pulled it out, all these coins started to fall to the floor. And I thought I hit the mother lode. I ended up pulling out the box and collecting all the coins and sneaking it out to my father's car so that nobody else would see it.
Mhm.
When I went through it later, I found they were all, someone had collected coins from all over the world from the 16 to the 1800s. But the price,
Must be worth a fortune.
it was not. It's all copper.
Oh, what a shame.
There was no value to
Okay, this must have funded your, travel around the world.
Well, I just thought the story in itself would make an exciting addition to the book.
So the local newspaper write it up at all, young fella finds old coin.
That all came later.
How did you meet Francesca?
Well, my life was always, it was like a series of stepping stones where meeting people led me to another outlet, and that would lead me to another outlet.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up in New York. I stayed with a great aunt of mine I'd never met. She came out in the 1920s. So I became her connection to Ireland, and she became my connection to the US.
Okay, a lot of Irish in New York. I'm Boston, for that matter.
Yeah, there you go. So
a lot of pubs in Australia too, Irish pubs, I'll tell you.
I know. I've been there.
Look at the Aussies like to drink. I tell you what, these Irish. Whoa. Anyway, no, and the aunt's in New York.
Well, I got to meet a niece of hers, and we kind of hit it off. And about a year later, she invited me to her wedding. And I needed to find a place where I could go and get a wedding suit.
Mm-hmm.
So my great aunt told me there's a bus stop around the corner from where I was staying. She said, if you take that, it'll take you right into White Plains, which is about 30 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And the bus will take you right to the Galleria Mall, and there you can purchase a suit. On the way into White Plains, it's probably around 7 o'clock in the evening. It was raining. I was tired. I had a full day. And there was a group of gas stations. Now, I was working for a mobile station in Larchmont, New York for that 1 year. And they were hinting at me that I might need to move because I was still illegal. And I was trying to go through the legal process. Well,
so you were in New York on a visa at the time?
I was on a visa, and then I got an extended visa, and then I kind of went on.
What was the visa length of time in those days? 6 months?
6 months.
6 months, right.
Well, on the way into White Plains, there was a group of gas stations on this very broad intersection that took you directly into the city center. Mm-hmm. And there was a mobile station that just beckoned me to go there. I felt this overwhelming urge that I had to go there. So after getting fitted for a suit, I walked back to where this gas station was. I walked in, a young man sitting behind the counter eating chicken soup. He was from Haiti. And an old man standing next to him, old Italian. And I told them my experiences, and they looked at each other like I was a godsend. And I said, can you do a clutch in a Honda? And I said, I can. Can you do it now? I said, by this time it was 9 o'clock at night. And I said, it's probably going to take about 4 or 5 hours to do. So I can make a start. He says, make a start. Anyhow, I was able to diagnose the problem. Well, a week later, the crew that were working for him were coming over and stick a $50 bill in my pocket and says, now you keep your mouth shut. And I said, I don't want any part of this. And I approached the owner and the young man inside. And it turned out that the old man, Rudy, his wife, the last 3 years had been dying of cancer. And the young Haitian man's wife was the nurse that cared for her. And so they became friends.
All right.
So they talked about the business, and Rudy wanted to sell the business. He'd been there for 40 years and sold the business to the young man who was a psychologist, knew nothing of the automotive business. And so after 2 weeks, the old man turned around. He says, this is what I propose. He says, you two form a partnership, get rid of all the staff, and take this business started again anew. So I ended up going in and firing everybody.
So it was an opportunity, but that was sad you had to do that, but...
It was, I had to do it. And they were stealing left and right over the 3 years that Rudy was caught up with the illness with his wife.
So
I'm there. as fortune would have it, I was adopted into a Jewish family. This old man took a liking to me.
It's all beshed, my friend. It's all beshed. Now,
He took a liking
made
to
you
me.
and Francesca decide, though, to move north to Carolina?
Her mother lived down here, and her aunt and uncle. And I was 40 when I married her. She was 38, but she still wanted a family. And she felt it important having an extended family close by would be very, very important.
You hadn't married before, right?
No. I was off doing adventures.
Yeah, I understand.
I had no time for that.
I never married till I was 47. I understand implicitly. Career, all over the place.
Yeah.
So how did Francesca influence you to becoming a nationally recognized artist and sculptor?
Her uncle came to visit one day. And down here, now that I had all this room, I actually got into doing a little bit of woodworking. And my wife's uncle Ray, when he came, he says, "Oh my God," he said, "I didn't know you did woodworking." He said, "You might be interested in some of the tools I no longer use." He said, "I'll come by next week and I'll bring them with me." One of the tools that he brought was a lathe for turning wood. And I'm teaching myself how to operate the lathe. And in passing, Francesca said, "Oh my God." She said, "I like what you're doing." She said, "You could make a walking stick for Aunt Mary." And I thought, that's a good idea. So I set about making a walking stick. And I had some carpentry skills, basic skills.
Right.
And it turned out to be a nice but very plain walnut walking stick. And I'm looking at it thinking, because I love this couple so much, Rayleigh and his wife Mary, they've given us so much. I thought, what could I do to show my love for this couple? And that's when I decided to pick up a knife and to see if I could carve a vine around just below the handle, about 9 or 10 inches down.
All right.
So after about an hour, this leaf emerged, probably about so big. And I got excited, called my wife out. She said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to do this all the way around, maybe 9 or 10 inches down the..." Well, 40 hours later, I had 3 leaves carved. And the frustration level was through the roof. I knew I couldn't do this. At least that's what I believed. And I threw it to one side. I said, "The hell with this. I don't have the skills for this."
Everybody's got different skills.
And so about a week passed, and Francesca approached me and said, "What's the story with the walking stick? Why aren't you working on it?" I said, "I can't do it. It's too tedious." And
I don't have the patience.
yeah. Well, she says, "You better finish it, because I told Aunt Mary you're making her something very special and unique."
You're in deep doo-doo.
So I found myself backed into a corner. I worked on that damn cane for 3 months. I hated every moment.
She's falling over every week waiting for it.
Till the day we presented it to her.
So you were 40, Francesca was 38.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long did you have together? How long was your life? You got married. How long did that beautiful
dream
dream
for 3 months. We dated for 3 months when I proposed, and we were together 29 years, 30 years old.
29 years.
29 years.
Right. 29 years, the happiest years of your life.
It was the best. She saw in me more than I saw myself.
She was your soulmate? You really believe?
It was true. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in the 29 years, we argued 10 times. And of course, being a hot-headed lady, she would storm out of the house into her car and off. And within 5 minutes, within 5 minutes, she was on the
Greek, Spanish, Italian?
Greek, Italian.
Oh, my God. Hell.
Oh, she was a fireball.
She'd come back surely. Calm down.
She called me 5 minutes later, resolving this issue or whatever issue.
There you go. See the heart.
She wanted no hostilities at all between us.
Isn't that lovely? 29 years. God almighty. So everything's going fine, and then boom, in comes the bloody bad news, right? So what happened? Tell me. How did
I'm doing some work here. I work from home. And about 2:00 that afternoon, one of the girls who was riding with Francesca called me up, and she says, "You need to get over to Northeast Park. Francesca's been involved in a serious accident." She was thrown from her horse. The three girls had gone riding together.
I see.
And when I arrived there, the place was full of people and paramedics and the fire department was there too. The two ladies that were with her were still there, but Francesca had been taken away in the ambulance. And there were two horses. And what I learned was that one of the horses was spooked by some fishermen and took off at full gallop, throwing the rider, an 82-year-old woman, a friend of Francesca's, from the horse.
Right.
And Francesca was in eyesight of the parking lot. They were just about finished their ride.
All right.
And that horse sped back past Francesca's horse. And of course, she had our guard totally down.
Right. And it spooked that horse.
And that horse immediately went into a full gallop.
Yeah, like she opened up. And what happened though? She fell.
She was thrown, landed headfirst. And the injury was so severe, it actually sheared her brain at the back of her head.
Oh, the poor devil.
Almost all of her ribs were broken, and she had a punctured lung. She was broken to pieces. But I don't think she ever felt a thing, because the impact of her head on the ground, that it was instant.
Right, okay.
She was still alive. She was still alive when the paramedics...
You're in the hospital, right?
Yeah, she was in a coma for 12 days. And I remember when I arrived at the hospital, a surgeon and one of the other staff members called me to one side, invited me into a room and said, "Mr. Nixon, are you prepared, should your wife survive this, to have your wife permanently on a breathing and feeding tube?"
One of these very hard decisions to make.
And that was when I realized the severity of the... That's when I realized, too, we would never talk again.
Yeah.
So
that's why I have a great policy, whenever you leave the house or you go to do something or whatever, try to at least say goodbye to your wife.
We did that. We kissed and hugged every morning.
Yes, or something, because it could.
I always made sure when she came in from work, I had a glass of wine already poured for her, and she said, "Come with me. Let's go sit in the deck."
Isn't that lovely? At the end of the day, tell me your problem. That's a soulmate, all right. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. And at the end of the day, what was your last week like with her?
We'd gone away to the Outer Banks. She had always wanted to see the wild horses of Corolla. And so for her birthday, April 26th, it's a 4.5-hour drive. We arrived there, and on her birthday, which was the third day, we had a marvelous time. And we signed up with a tour group. They put us in the back of a wild horse tours, I think it was. They placed us in the back of a 4-wheel drive pickup. There were 2 bench seats, and there were probably about 10 people. Mm-hmm. And there's a fierce wind coming in off the Atlantic, and we're bouncing over sand dunes, and we're freezing. And Francesca looks at me, and she nudges, said, "We don't see horses today, and this being my birthday, you're going to be buying me jewelry today." And before I could answer her, almost immediately, all these horses came running towards us, and they ran both sides of the truck, followed by a black stallion that reared up in front of us. And then it followed the rest of the horses. And my wife looked at me and she says, "You're lucky. You're off the hook." Well, that night we went out to dinner.
We don't see horses today. What happens? Yeah. All these horses come up. And a black stallion.
that evening we went out to dinner. And we were placed at a small square table. This was a restaurant of her choosing. And there was a couple sitting next to us. And of course, my wife immediately gets into conversation. And it turned out that couple also owned horses. And so, newfound friends. That evening in the parking lot outside, we were hugging and kissing and exchanging phone numbers. Couldn't wait to see them again. And on our way home, Francesca said to me, "That was one of the best birthday gifts I ever got."
Well, lovely. See, beautiful memories to go out with, right? Yeah. You can always hold on to those.
I have those.
Paul, you've shared a lot, and we've run out of time, but I could sit down and talk with you all afternoon with, a couple of stouts.
Do you mind if I show you my first public sculpture? Because this is
Yeah, why not? By all means, yeah.
This was crucial. I have it here. Somebody framed it for me.
All right.
Can you see that?
Bravery in bronze.
That is a large bronze statue. It was my first public sculpture here in Greensboro.
Very good. Put it closer to the camera.
If I can get in there.
There we go. Isn't that fabulous? All out of bronze.
It's bronze. It's life size. I never went to school for art.
It's pretty detailed, my friend.
It's very detailed. And they told me, actually, it surpassed all their expectations.
Well, you come a long way from doing the cane, didn't you?
Yeah. And the following day, I got a phone call from an old man. He said, I'm calling. He says, I want to be sure. You're Paul Nixon, aren't you? And I said, I am. He said, well, I have to tell you something. I got your number from the fire department. And my brother and I were both firefighters there before the outbreak of World War II. When the U.S. became involved in the European theater, he said, we both enlisted. And he said, we landed on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. He said, I got off the beach. My brother never made it. And he started crying. And he said, you've given me a place now I can go sit and talk to him. And I joked that for 30 years working as an auto mechanic, I was used to seeing people cry every time I gave them a repair bill.
Yeah, right.
This was from my heart. And it was the same response I got from Mary and from so many other people. So many other people.
So what are people going to get out of this book?
It's going to open up the world to them. It's all about, we only get one shot at life. And we get one shot at life. And I remember when I worked in White Plains, we had these old customers that would come in and tell me, Paul, he says, don't wait till you get to our age when you retire thinking that you can go see the world and do this and do that. He says, do it while you're young and fit.
I told my son that too,
And
travel while you're young, the old saying, the cliche, sow your wild oats, do what you got to do, but travel while you're... Greatest education you're ever going to have is travel.
Yeah, and risk.
Different languages, different cultures, different people, yeah. Travel as much as you can before you settle down.
So much knowledge. But I always believe that you have to take risks, jump into uncertainties. And for me, certainly in my life, one thing led to it. I think back to that coin toss.
That's right. That's amazing.
And look at the 40 years now that have since passed and the transformation it has, Francesca certainly has placed on me.
Right.
And how I've impacted others in this world. Like the firefighter, the old man and the firefighter is only one story of many.
No one so many. Yeah.
So there's an awful lot in this book.
You should put it all down. I encourage people to put their memoirs down, to write them down, create what you want out of it. Because all of a sudden you turn around, you're 70, 1 minute you're 21, next minute you're 70. I mean, whoa, where'd it go? What they do? Where's it all at?
I had one old man that was very taken with my adventures, and he was in his 80s. And so he and his wife started traveling. And within a year, he went blind. He loved the idea of travel. And then he realized he left it too late.
Yeah, well, I get that all the time from my cheese and kisses. Well, the Minister for War and Finance, anyway. That's what I call it. You like that one? Cheese and kisses. That's the missus, And the Minister for War and Finance, she says, I don't know why you're doing it, because I love doing it, and I'm trying to help authors. But at the end of the day, I want to travel too. There's a lot to see, other countries. Well, you can. A lot of places you won't be able to go soon, the way it's going. You've got a lot of LinkedIns to come, Twitter, all that stuff is there. But this is the most important one right now, paulnixonart.com, okay, to read about you. And the book is, like I said before, it's not just Amazon, but Barnes & Noble and Ingram Spark and so on. Amazon.
Yeah, there's a lot of different platforms out there now.
Well, it's lovely. And you'll probably never marry again, will you?
Yeah, maybe. But it won't be the same. I'll probably date, but I don't know about marriage.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's only ever one.
Yeah.
It amazes me, though. Some people, they're barely, cold in the ground or whatever, and they're marrying again, It's, I don't think I can do that,
She's gone, 15? 15 months now. So I think companionship would be nice to go away. Yeah,
sharing movies together, but of sailing, horse riding. No, forget the horse riding.
Yeah.
Don't do any horse riding.
I did 40 years of traveling by myself. I'm not going to do that anymore.
It's been a pleasure, Paul. Absolute pleasure. And I wish you well with the book. It's different. It's unique. It's a memoir. And maybe somebody will get some consolence out of it, they'll relate.
There's healing in there for a lot of people.
Yeah, you just never know. So I wish you well. Let's hope it's a good seller. You just never know, do you?
No.
Right?
Well, I've got great confidence about it so far. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Well, stay there too. So you download, Paul. Don't leave with you just yet. Thank you. The show is dedicated to authors, about discovering your book and promoting your book. And hopefully it sells your book, because that's what it's all about. You just want to at least pay for the thing, wouldn't you? You'd want that. So good luck with your sales. But if you'd like to do it, by all means, sit down and just write your notes and get going. And today there's tons of stuff online, to learn and people to learn with, or ghostwriters will do it for you and so on. But the show is dedicated to authors. So share with your friends, tell them about it. And you never know, you're going to listen to and maybe hear something like Nothing Like a Good Book.